Again, this is one of these stories in American history I talked to you about at the start of the school year that a lot of other kids in this state that are taking United States history classes will not know. This is some of the detail. Well, this prelude to the Boston Massacre occurred on February 22nd, 1770. February 22nd of 1770. And it was a conflict between those colonists that were loyal to the King of England versus those who saw the British as an enemy. So on February 22nd, 1770, a clash began in Boston, Massachusetts. And in Boston there was a conflict. And the conflict was between those colonists that would be loyal to the King of England and those colonists who saw Britain as an enemy. Now, Meg, what do we call those colonists that are loyal to the King of England? They're loyal to the King of England. What do they call them? Loyalists. Okay? So the conflict was between colonists that were loyal to the King of England. They called those loyalists in the American colonies, and those who saw the British as an enemy. Andy, what do they call those people that are American colonists that see the British as an enemy?
I said patriot.
That's correct. Patriots. That's where the New England Patriots got their name. Okay? So, what happened is an angry mob were in front of a building throwing rocks at the shop of a loyalist merchant in Boston. An angry mob was in front of a building throwing rocks at a shop that belonged to a loyalist merchant. So it was a loyalist merchant's business. A merchant that was loyal to the King of England, that did not see Britain as an enemy. And who was throwing rocks at this poor guy's place, Sully? A bunch of patriots, yes. Well, a fellow by the name of Ebenezer Richardson, who was also a loyalist, came along and tried to defend the merchant and his store. Okay, another loyalist walked by, a fellow by the name of Ebenezer Richardson, and he walked by and saw this angry mob throwing rocks at his friend's store, and he tried to defend the merchant, and while he was defending the merchant, he was assaulted. He was hit in the head with rocks. And it made him angry. So Ebenezer Richardson, a loyalist, came along and tried to defend his merchant friend's store, and he was assaulted, hit in the head with rocks as well. And he got angry, so he went back to his home and got his musket, which is a rifle that was popular in those days. And the crowd basically did what? Followed him to his home, which wasn't far away. Okay? So this mob turns their attention on this angry loyalist, Ebenezer Richardson, who has gone home to get his musket. Well, as he opens his door and sees this mob in front of his home, he becomes frightened and he begins to fire his musket into the crowd. He begins to fire his musket into the crowd. So Ebenezer Richardson gets hit in the head with rocks, he gets angry, he heads back to his home, pulls his musket out to protect he and his family. He opens the door, he sees an angry crowd, panics a little bit, and fires his musket into the crowd. Well, one of the shots he fired hit an 11-year-old boy by the name of Christopher Sider right in the chest. So one of these shots he fired from his musket hit 11-year-old Christopher Sider in the chest. A nearby doctor by the name of Joseph Warren was called to try to save the youngster's life. A nearby doctor by the name of Joseph Warren was called to try to save the youngster's life. But after trying until late in the evening that night, Warren fails in his attempt and the boy dies. So Dr. Joseph Warren is called to try to save Christopher Sider's life, the 11-year-old boy who was hit in the chest by Ebenezer Richardson's errant shot. But after trying until late that evening, Warren fails in his attempt and the boy dies. 4 days later, on February 26th, they have a funeral for Christopher Sider. They have a funeral for Christopher Sider in Boston. Over 5,000 people attend this boy's funeral. Over 5,000 people attend this boy's funeral. What happens to Ebenezer Richardson, do you figure there, Charles? What happens to him?
Does he get killed?
Well, close, but what happens to him in general, legally? Well, he goes on trial, right? For the murder of Christopher Sider, and the judge finds him not guilty. But Charles is fairly correct. He is later tortured by local patriots. Okay? So, he's found not guilty in trial, but is later tortured by local patriots. Now, here's the point I want to make before we quit today, and we'll continue this up tomorrow. Dr. Joseph Warren, kids, is the founding father of America that no one knows about. Okay? When I say founding fathers, Mackenzie, who's the first name that comes to your mind? George Washington. McKenna, how about you? Who's another founding father? George Washington. Alex? Come on, you're thinking too much.
James Madison.
James Madison.
Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson.
I was going to say
Benjamin Franklin. That's right. John Adams. You've all heard of these people, right? You guys have too. You just were thinking it was too hard. John Hancock, maybe. But the founding fathers are the people that put America on the map with independence. Nobody knows about Joseph Warren. Joseph Warren may have done more than any of those men to give America its independence. I'll tell you just a little bit about him before the bell rings. He was born in Massachusetts and graduated from Harvard University. That's how old that university is. Okay? He was born in Massachusetts and graduated from Harvard University. He was very, very popular among the people of Boston and was considered the most successful doctor in the city. He was very, very popular. And the thing we'll emphasize tomorrow is he was a major advocate of the rights of the American colonists. He was a major league patriot. He was a major advocate of the rights of the American colonists. And I'm going to give you some examples tomorrow of why he was such a major advocate. He was the guy that really, really pushed for independence from Britain. And he's the founding father nobody knows. And his story will go on for a while. Okay, so we'll quit there for today, and we will pick up tomorrow. If you're going to be gone for volleyball tomorrow, you're just going to have to pick up these notes and be ready for Monday. Okay?
Loyalist.